Hi there. I saw your video post on Facebook, and I thought I'd give your videos a look, and I saw the one entitled Death. I thought this was a really interesting prompt for discussion, so I went ahead and decided to make my own video, because writing out comments doesn't always seem to get the point across. So, you talked about this idea of sleep, and I found it really interesting because it seems to discuss a quote that I find is one of my favorite quotes of all time. It's from the French writer Marquis de Sade. He is known for his more erotic-themed works, but he also had a few non-erotic works made. One of them was called Florville and Curval. It's a short story about the twisted life of this one woman, but it's pretty irrelevant, the plot itself. But the quote that I found most beautiful in this little short story is one by Florville's dying aunt, pretty much. She's dying of tuberculosis, and this is 18th century France, directly before the French Revolution. And you'd have to understand the historical concept of this quote before I give it to you, in that the aristocracy was known for their atheist views in many cases, which was in direct juxtaposition with the peasants, who were often profoundly religious and found religious tradition an important aspect of daily life. So she says, I'm not sure if you speak French or not, so I'll give it to you in English. Death is nothing to fear. I'm trying to translate directly from the French on my screen, my child. That for those who believe, they're always torn between hell and paradise, uncertain of which will open to receive them. And this anxiety is sad. For me, who has no hope, for me, who is sure of never being more unhappy after my death than I was before my life, I will sleep tranquilly in the bosom of nature without regret, like without sadness, without remorse, like without inquietude. And I've asked to be placed in my jasmine, underneath my jasmine flowers, and there my grave has been prepared, and I will be there, Florville, and the atoms emanating from my decaying body will nourish the flowers that I have so loved. I'm sorry for the really rough translation. I'm trying to directly translate from the French original. I'll put a quote below in the French, and then via Google Translate as well. I found that it's really applicable, if you were listening, and that she talks about sleep and the concept of death being strongly tied, that if you're looking at it from an atheist perspective, that when you die, you don't go into another world, you don't enter a new experience. And I don't know if that's quite what you were saying, but I felt it was important for me to respond, because this is one of my favorite quotes of all time. Florville and Curval really delves into some aspect of religion and societal views regarding death. And particularly in that scene, Florville's friend, and she lived with her at some point, is dying. So she's about to approach it, and as an atheist, she's not afraid of it, because she knows, or she's assured, that she won't experience anything new. She won't enter anything that there is to be fearful of, because death is just like non-existing. And I mean, going with this line of thought, I found that it was really interesting that our society as a whole has this fear of death. I don't know if that's so tied to religious or societal beliefs relating to the potential of an afterlife, or if it's more along the lines of not being able to experience anymore. And that's where my fear is. I'm not religious, really. I was brought up religious, and for many years I believed that, oh no, I'm going to hell, I'm going to heaven. And this quote ties into that idea, that I was afraid because I was uncertain of where I would go, what my place was. And that's a human fear to not belong, a human fear to not be a part of something that you want to be a part of, to be out of the group. And if you're a churchgoer, if you're someone who's strongly religious, that's something that a lot of people are afraid of. That's why going to church, it's a group experience, just as it is a personal experience. For me, It's about my life and my entity, the neurons that make up my personality and everything that makes me me not existing anymore. I mean, I get some comfort in that the ideas that I have, the memories that I make with people, the things that I do in my life will live on, and that people will maybe remember me. That if I write a book, maybe 100 years from now, people will actually read it, and this makes me really happy because I think a part of me will live on. This is immortality in sort of like my creations. If you know Greek mythology, how Athena sprang from the mind of Zeus, that's story for goddess Athena's creation and existence. And I feel it's sort of like that, that if you are an artist, or if you're a composer, or you're somebody that does great things, your actions will continue on, and your name might be remembered. But at the same time, as natural as it is the process of death, and as important it is to have this cycle going on so that, I don't know, the atoms from decay and bodies rotting into the earth may feed our ecosystem, it's still a big fear of mine to no longer be here personally to experience it. But given the opportunity for immortality, I don't know if I would take it. I mean, it's a really intriguing concept, because where is the motivation to live if your life is endless, if there is no incentive to do anything? There's no incentive to create, there's no incentive to procreate, there's no incentive to make a mark on this earth. And I feel that's the relevant thing to consider, that life in and of itself, and the death that limits it and frames it into a specific time, time constraint, and a specific time period, tend to shape our very existence. And yeah, I thought those were really good things. How you said the counterpart of life, and that's absolutely it. Because where would the motivation be if we didn't have a ticking time clock? And I don't know. I get assurance in the fact that for those that I love that have passed on, I still remember them. And what is existing to those around you, if not existing in their memories? So for those that I loved that are no longer here with us physically, their memories with me, they're still with me. And it's different than them being alive, but at the same time, in some aspects, it's no different, because the concept of a person is still a concept of a person, regardless of whether they're alive or dead. So, yeah, just life cycle, flow, all this great stuff. Hope you like my response. I got bored.